Hello everybody and welcome to this video on AP Psychology, Unit 1, Psychology's History and Approaches. So psychology has evolved markedly since its inception as a discipline in 1879. There have been significant changes in the theories that psychologists use to explain behavior and mental processes. In addition, the methodology of psychological research has expanded to include a diversity of approaches to data gathering. The textbook used to create this video is Minor Psychology for AP 2nd edition. So psychology's history and approaches. So we start by asking kind of these three fundamental questions. Where did psychology start and why? How do we as psychologists explain human behavior? And 3, what are the contemporary approaches or points of view or perspectives we use to try and explain behavior? Which one makes the most sense to you? So what is psychology? Psychology is the science of behavior and mental processes. The main goals of psychology are 1, to describe how people and animals behave, 2, to understand and explain the causes of behavior, 3, to predict how people and animals will behave under certain conditions, and 4, to control or influence behavior through knowledge and control of causes. So psychology's roots. So why do people act and think the way that they do has been a thought for a long time. So Egyptians, India, China, Buddhists, Greeks, so Socrates and Plato, the mind is separate from the body and knowledge is born within us, so knowledge is innate. Aristotle, knowledge is not pre-existing. He collects data through careful observations and believed knowledge grows from experiences and memories. So more on the roots. So the Renaissance Enlightenment talks about how the tabula rasa by John Locke, so a blank slate, and modern biology. So we're looking more into current situations and looks into more of the biology of the person. So psychology as a science began in 1879 with critical thinking and a scientific attitude. So ancient philosophies and Renaissance biology has morphed into modern biology. So now we have the American Psychological Association and other professional organizations. Some more on the roots. Wilhelm Wundt in 1879 did the first psychological experiment ever. So the reaction time experiment, so it's testing the atoms of the mind. So after 1879, 2 schools of thought emerged. How to study human behavior. So the first one was structuralism, and the second was functionalism. Scientists had to keep an open mind. So do the facts support the evidence, or are they just making it up? So there's 3 basic attitudes help make modern science possible: curiosity, skepticism, and humility. So thinking about the mind structure, Tittinger started structuralism, an early school of psychology that used introspection to explore the structural elements of the human mind. Next, we had William James, who did functionalism, a school of psychology that focused on how our mental and behavioral processes function, so how they enable us to adapt, survive, and flourish. So Sigmund Freud is thought to be the one that kind of fundamentally changed the psychological science, and he was known mainly for dream theory, the unconscious, personality, and psychodynamic theory. So then we continue as psychology develops as a field into behaviorism by John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner. They study the observable behavior. Then we continue with humanistic psychology with Carl Rogers and Maslow. So psychology, in the essence, is is a science of behavior and mental processes. So one of psychology's biggest questions is nature versus nurture, so biology versus experience. So psychology's three main levels of analysis include biological influences, so natural selection of adaptive traits, brain mechanisms, hormonal influences, psychological influences, so learned fears and other learned expectations, emotional responses, and also social cultural influences, so the presence of others, cultural, societal, and family expectations, also peer and other group influences. I'll go into what kind of defines our behavior or mental processes. So some of the approaches and perspectives in psychology include biological psychology, evolutionary psychology, psychodynamic psychology, behavioral, cognitive, humanistic, and social cultural psychology. So biological approach focuses on how the body and brain enable emotions, memories, and sensory experiences. Evolutionary focuses on how the natural selection of traits promoted the survival of genes. Psychodynamic focuses on how behavior springs from unconscious drives and conflicts. So the behavioral approach focuses on how we learn observable responses. Cognitive focuses on how we encode, process, store, and retrieve information. Humanistic focuses on how we meet our needs for love and acceptance and achieve self-fulfillment. Social cultural focuses on how behavior and thinking vary across situations and cultures. Some of the subfields of psychology include psychometrics, basic research. So you can do research in social psychology, personal psychology, educational, and developmental. Or is applied research. So those include psychiatry, clinical psychology, counseling psychology, human factors, and also industrial organizational psychology.